Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith is day 281. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 47 and 48 of the supplement to the Summa, that is, of compulsory and conditional consent, and of the object of the consent. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code Summa 10, and so here we go. Article 1, whether a compulsory consent is possible. In one way, no one can compel the will, because our will is an immaterial faculty. Feel free to jump back to the first volume of the Summa for a proof and description of that. Therefore, since the will is not material, it cannot be pushed, manipulated physically, like someone can push or force your hand to sign a contract. However, the Church deems something forced or compelled interiorly if an action was done under great fear, because fear can have an incredible influence on our decisions, the decisions we make. So that had that fear not been present, we might have acted differently. Thus, canon law states today, which follows Aquinas' argument in the article, is canon 1103, a marriage is invalid if entered into because of force or grave fear from without, even if unintentionally inflicted, so that a person is compelled to choose marriage in order to be free from it, to be free from this fear. Article 2, whether a constant man can be compelled by fear. For sake of understanding, ease of understanding here, I'm going to exchange the term constant for virtuous in describing what St. Thomas says. Can the virtuous man be compelled by fear? Well, he cannot be influenced against the rule of reason because he's virtuous, after all. Therefore, the constant man or virtuous man would never undertake a greater evil to escape a lesser evil, like damaging his soul via sin for the sake of protecting his body from physical harm in order to save his own skin, as we call it, or we commonly put it. However, the virtuous man may make decisions in light of fear because his fear is habitually trained under reason, and thus when he is afraid of something, he is supposed to be afraid of it, and therefore should act on that fear. Thus, the virtuous sailor who is afraid of drowning in the storm would be right to toss over the cargo in order to lighten the ship so that it's less likely to tip over. This is an action, in a sense, based out of fear, yet it is reasonable fear to act on. To answer our article then, a virtuous man is not compelled by fear in that he would do something contrary to reason, but he may act reasonably on account of some reasonable fear. Article 3, whether compulsory consent invalidates a marriage. We already quoted canon law on this point, but to quote St. Thomas in this article, he states, since there is no room for consent where fear or compulsion enters in, it follows that where a person's consent is required, every pretext for compulsion must be set aside. Now, mutual contract is necessary in marriage, therefore, etc. And it's Aquinas who simply ends that argument with etc. Then he continues, further, matrimony signifies the union of Christ with the Church, which union is according to the liberty of love. Therefore, it cannot be the result of compulsory consent. Article 4, whether compulsory consent makes a marriage as regards the party who uses compulsion. The argument St. Thomas makes here is something like, just like my father cannot be a father without a son, or a daughter, I suppose, so too a husband cannot be a husband without a wife. Meaning, even if the man were to give his consent and then force the woman's consent to marriage, since her consent is invalid, then he has no wife, and therefore his consent as well does not count to make for marriage. Marriage is a relation, St. Thomas says. You cannot have a relation, like being a father, without a child, or being to the right of a pillar without the pillar. You also cannot be a married person without another person who you are married to. To quote St. Thomas, since marriage is a kind of relation, and a relation cannot arise in one of the terms without arising in the other, it follows that whatever is an impediment to matrimony in the one is an impediment to matrimony in the other, since it is impossible for a man to be the husband of one who is not his wife, or for a woman to be a wife without a husband. Article 5, whether conditional consent makes a marriage. And both Aquinas and canon law state that if this conditional consent is made in the present, then the consent would be valid. And therefore, if no other impediment was present, the marriage would be valid. For example, if I said during the wedding ceremony, I consent to marry you, some lady, then following the rest of the prescribed words, provided you are currently a baptized and confirmed Catholic. That consent would bind me in the present, provided those conditions were met. And that might not be the best example, but such a present conditional, which is what we're talking about in this article, if met, would make for a valid consent. Article 6, whether one can be compelled by one's father's command to marry. And a word from St. Thomas, a son may lawfully enter religion, though his father command him to marry. Therefore he is not bound to obey him in this. Further, if he were bound to obey, a betrothal contracted by the parents would hold good without their children's consent, but this is against the law. We move then on to question 48 of the object of the consent, Article 1, whether the consent that makes a marriage is a consent to carnal intercourse. What exactly is a man and woman consenting to specifically when they give the marital consent? And we cannot say this is consent simply to carnal intercourse, although such consent would be included in the consent to give away of oneself to the other physically. As St. Paul says in Ephesians, the husband and the wife become one flesh, so that the husband's body belongs to the wife, and his wife's body to his husband. Therefore, the essential object of consent is not intercourse, but to the marital bond itself. Although such lifelong bond entails other things, as canon law states, as canon 1057, the consent of the parties legitimately manifested between persons qualified by law makes marriage. Matrimonial consent is an act of the will by which a man and a woman mutually give and accept each other through an irrevocable covenant in order to establish marriage. And canon 1096 here, for matrimonial consent to exist, the contracting parties must be at least not ignorant that marriage is a permanent partnership between a man and a woman ordered to the procreation of offspring by means of some sexual cooperation. And there you have it. Article 2, our last article, whether marriage can result from one person's consent to take another for a base motive. We hear in the book of Tobit Tobias pray the following before consummating his marriage. And now, O Lord, I am not taking this sister of mine because of lust, but with sincerity. Grant that I may find mercy and may grow old together with her. And she said with him, Amen. St. Thomas asks in this article, but what if a man did take his wife simply for lust, or for money, or some other base reason? Would their marriage be valid? And it would be, provided, like the rest of the other sacraments, the correct form and matter is observed in the administration of that sacrament. Like if a man was baptized to later murder someone, provided he intended to be baptized, and the person who baptized him maybe out of hatred for him, just to make this scenario even more bizarre, if he did so with water and correct words, intending to do what the church does when it baptizes, then the baptism would be valid, although each of them has a base, ultimate intention here. Therefore, also if a husband gives his lifelong consent to his wife, if his words exterior and interior give the marital consent, following ecclesiastical law, then the marriage is valid, even if he is doing so to ultimately indulge his lust, or to become rich or famous, or who knows what else. And with that, we close another episode. We have just finished covering questions 47 and 48 of the supplement to the Summa, that is, of compulsory and conditional consent, and of the object of the consent. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.